Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. Okay, so I was talking to a buddy of mine, Adam, earlier today, and he and I were talking about like what'll happen at the end of Avengers 4, right? Because like Avengers 4 is probably the most anticipated comic book movie of all time. I firmly believe that by and large, like Avengers 4 will do more to set the stage for what comes after in Phase 4 than like any of the movies that come after Avengers 4. Because Avengers 4 is not the last movie in Phase 3, right? We have like a couple more movies before we go into Phase 4. And I feel like Avengers 4 will set the stage for all that. And I want to talk about the X-Men in Avengers 4 and then going into Phase 4. But before we do that, I want to kind of provide you guys with a bit of information here based on what Marvel will most likely do when it comes, I guess the Marvel Cinematic Universe will most likely do when it comes to rolling the X-Men over and putting them in the MCU. So in Marvel Comics, what you have is something called the Ultimate Universe. And the Ultimate Universe was an answer to the question, what would happen if superheroes existed in the Marvel Universe in the real world right now? And that's why the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with the exception of a couple different things, is so heavily based on the Ultimate Universe, because it's really the best source of material to go with for the most part if you want an updated telling of superheroes. In the Ultimate Universe, what you had is you had Nick Fury, Black Nick Fury, like Samuel Jackson Nick Fury, who was the original super soldier, not Captain America, not Steve Rogers. Instead, what had happened was that during like the events that were leading up to World War II, that what happened was Nick Fury was basically bonded with the super soldier serum and then escaped. Around the same time that happened, another guy named James Howlett was taken to Canada and he was experimented on as well. But when the experiments were happening with James Howlett, what happened is they basically learned that James had a gene inside of him that if it was activated would grant him powers. And when they activated that gene, it gave him a healing factor. And that's how James Howlett became Wolverine in the Ultimate Universe. Now, James Howlett eventually went on, did his own thing, kind of went out and roamed and, whatever. But for Nick Fury, he basically escaped, went underground and nobody could find him. And so following that, they said, well, then we need a new super soldier. And so they found Steve Rogers, they bonded the serum to him, and then he went forward as Captain America. So technically in the Ultimate Universe, Captain America is the second person to receive the super soldier serum, not the first. And so following that, because of the fact that like knowledge of this gene and how to activate it existed in the hands of like the Canadian government, and in turn became kind of like this little secret, so to speak, of like their government and the powers that be. Eventually what they did is they took this substance that activates these genes, they synthesized it and then spread it throughout the world. And what it did is it activated all of these quote unquote X genes inside all these people across the world. And those X genes started activating, and that's when mutants came, that's when mutants showed up. That's basically how we got mutants in the Ultimate Universe. And that's probably what they'll do in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Assume that Captain America dies at the end of Avengers 4. They're basically gonna say, okay, we need more super soldiers or some place, something will rise up or something like that. But we'll basically learn like the ability to essentially wake up these genes that like Wolverine's been there the entire time, and the ability to wake up these genes exists, and they'll use that and they'll spread it across the world, and then mutants will start popping up in like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That seems to be the most logical way to do it, the easiest and the simplest way to do it. Then there's my theory, which I think is a little more complicated, but actually better. So in Marvel Comics, in the main Marvel universe, moving away from the Ultimate Universe and looking at like the main Marvel Comics universe, what you had is a program called Weapons Plus. And Weapons Plus was basically this kind of umbrella company. It was this overarching project, and then under that you had Weapon 1, Weapon 2, Weapon 3, Weapon 4, all the way up to like Weapon 10, which is technically where it ended, although you do have like Weapon 12, things like that. You got like Phantom X and so on and so forth. But the idea behind this was that due to a set of events that was very, very weird and very, very strange and involved a bacterial entity named John Sublime that we don't need to go into, essentially like John Sublime came to the conclusion that mutants were a credible threat. And so what he did is he essentially like implemented Weapons Plus. And what Weapons Plus did is it created Weapon 1, Project Rebirth, Captain America. And the basis behind Captain America's creation was to create, or I guess to provide a super soldier serum to a handful of individuals, or to like, I guess the standing army, and then use them as a means to like contain and control the mutant threat. And so effectively, like World War II was a testing ground for Captain America. The problem was in the comics, Captain America was frozen in ice for however long, and they believed he was dead. And so because of the fact that around the same time that happened, or at least before that happened, Abraham Erskine, the guy who invented the super soldier serum, died, what it meant was that Weapons Plus was left with nothing. They had no super soldier and they had no super soldier serum. And so following that, there was Weapons Plus, which continued on and started creating things like Weapon 2, 2 through 10 basically. So like Frank Simpson, like Wolverine, different things like that. And then in turn, there were like some follow-up projects. So like Weapon 11, Weapon 12, Weapon 13. So you had like Emma Frost, who was a super powerful telepath. And then like she was cloned 4 times, and that gave us the Stepford Cuckoos, who were basically like these 4 girls who were clones of Emma Frost and had a kind of telepathic hive mind, meaning if they combined their minds together, they were more powerful than they were individually. But like there were all these little projects that we're working on, but there were also side projects. There were other attempts to recreate the super soldier serum, in addition to like all the projects that Weapons Plus was working on, right? Like that's why it's a big umbrella thing. And what you had was a guy named the Professor who basically created the serum that was like 1,000 times more powerful than the super soldier serum. And then this guy, Robert Reynolds, took the serum and then became the Sentry. So like that's how little things kind of fit in. But what you basically say here is that like the entire basis behind Captain America's creation was rooted in like an effort to do good, right? Like the Strategic Scientific Reserve. So Chester Phillips, who was played by Tommy Lee Jones in Avengers 1, Peggy Carter, Howard Stark, like they created the SSR, and their basis was creating a super soldier who could basically fight on the side of the Allies to rally the troops and defeat the Axis powers. Done. It was basically all based on doing good things, just like we saw in Captain America the First Avenger. Then what you do is you take Captain America the Winter Soldier and you take that information and you roll it in. And what you basically say is after Captain America was frozen in ice and he was believed to have been dead, and then once Hydra infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and then started taking it over, that what Hydra did is they basically modified the entire basis behind Weapons Plus as it was created by SSR. And what you say is Hydra started moving it towards creating weapons that could be used for like assassination, controlling the people, or something along those lines, which is how you get like Frank Simpson nuke and all that kind of cool stuff. But what you basically say is like Hydra created Wolverine. You know, you had Team X, which was a Black Ops team, a wet work team that worked for the CIA. When Hydra, under the controlling S.H.I.E.L.D., realized that Team X existed, like Wolverine, Sabretooth, Silver Fox, Maverick, that they took Team X and they threw them into Weapons Plus as Weapon X, as the 10th version of the weapon program, and then like bonded adamantium to Wolverine's skeleton and bonded adamantium to Sabretooth's skeleton, and then like Wolverine escaped his captivity and then just ran out into the world and whatever. Like that's literally what you do. Like you basically say like all that stuff happens. And the way that you essentially kind of reveal that is, one, of course, with like the introduction of the X-Men, but two, you have Captain America recreate S.H.I.E.L.D. at the end of Avengers 4. Because what ended up happening, like one of the things you guys remember from Captain America the Winter Soldier is that Captain America and Nick Fury butted heads, right? Because like Nick Fury was like, well, we have all these things that we're doing, and Captain America was like, this isn't freedom, this is fear, all that kind of stuff. But the idea was that there was a point where Nick Fury said, no one can spill all the secrets because no one has them all. That is compartmentalization. That Nick Fury is the only one that has all that information out there. With Hydra basically showing that it infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and then Captain America the Winter Soldier basically being a movie that saw S.H.I.E.L.D. completely dissolved and taken down, that in the aftermath of Avengers 4, Captain America recreates it. Says like, somebody needs to run S.H.I.E.L.D. or somebody goes to him and says like, somebody, S.H.I.E.L.D. has to be recreated, somebody has to run it. That's you, Captain America. You're going to be the one to run S.H.I.E.L.D. That basically Captain America runs the whole thing. But as part of being able to run it effectively, he has to know all the secrets of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so like as at some 10-minute segment at the end of Avengers 4 or something like that, or some 5-minute segment, you basically have Captain America going through like all the files of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then coming across one that says like Project Rebirth / Weapons Plus. And because he knows Project Rebirth is the name of the Captain America project, he investigates, and that's when it basically starts throwing in names like Wolverine and stuff like that. So then it's just like, holy shit, like we have Wolverine in the MCU. Some small little segment like that is literally how you pull that off. And so over the course of like the X-Men being put in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you basically have this kind of like exploration of what Weapons Plus is and how deep it goes. You move away from the comic source material, and what you basically say is like Weapons Plus was the basis behind the creation of the Sentry, Robert Reynolds. Weapons Plus was the basis behind the creation of like Hyperion. That Weapons Plus created like all these major powerhouses, so you don't have to bring them in from alternate realities. You don't have to do things like invoke the Beyonders or like the Negative Zone or something like that. You don't do any of that stuff. Weapons Plus created all these guys, and like they've been frozen, like they've been kept on ice, that when S.H.I.E.L.D. believed that like they were in total control, like when Captain America the Winter Soldier happened, they were all just kind of kept on ice in the same way Bucky Barnes was until they needed to use them, like, or they just proved to be so powerful that Hydra couldn't contain them, so they just kept them frozen. And like we've never seen or heard from them because they've literally just been sitting in like a frozen tube somewhere down in some basement in some shoddy building somewhere. Like you could literally pull all that off and then just say like, by whatever manner and whatever means, they're woken up over time. Like I think my theory is better. Like I think my idea behind introducing the X-Men into the MCU is better, even if it's a little more complicated, but still like I like that idea. Like I think it's awesome, like Weapons Plus, all that kind of stuff, because what you basically have Captain America realize is like the entire basis behind its creation, while it was rooted in good, it was like co-opted by Hydra and it was twisted and it was screwed up, which now gives Captain America a reason to like track down Wolverine. Like it builds a kind of mystery and intrigue there that like Captain America can investigate on his own or with the help of like Black Widow or something along those lines, or even like Hawkeye or whatever. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. I think it's a cool idea. But if you guys are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace. Bye.